me and my family are all so far removed from the world of advertising that I think they still don't fully understand what I do. Because even when I show them the ad, for example, they'll say, "Were you holding the camera?" I say, "No." "Were you directing it?" I was like, "No." And then they're like, "What did you do?" I said, "I thought of the idea." They're like, "Oh." I went to Ogilvy. Ogilvy said, we don't have seats for people to sit on. I said, "I'll bring my own seat. Can I come in?"
Even if there is a slight similarity to any other ad also which has come out in the market of any other brand,
Correct.
Still a brand fears to go that route.
When Pratibha Patil had become the president, she was called Rashtrapatni. Now, what the hell is Rashtrapatni, right? Rashtrapati is head of the nation.
Yeah.
Rashtrapatni is wife of the nation. I believe in the joy of not knowing. Imagine walking in after having more than 20 years of experience, walking into every campaign thinking, will I be able to crack this or will I not be able to crack this?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another fantastic episode of Beyond the Brief with myself, Sandeep Menon, who's the Managing Director for Fat Monk Production. Today's guest is someone who just doesn't create ads, but he creates that impact of it could even shift culture, it could stir hearts, and it could emotionally hit you at the right spot. Hemant Shringy, guys, in the house. He is the CCO of FCB Ulka. I'm extremely happy to have Hemant on this show. We're going to deep dive into a couple of interesting campaigns, which is the most talked about campaigns in India, maybe. For example, Aerial Share the Load, Barabri Bhasha. These are something which just comes on top of my head. But he has done some amazing bit of impactful work that has hit the right note and went about changing culture. Let's go beyond the brief with Hemant. I'm so glad that I have you on this show because the fact is that it's a goosebumish moment for me when I actually speak to the makers of certain wonderful things that exist in our advertising field and to get to learn and understand what went behind those kind of efforts, thinking. Also some masalas of, what actually that people don't see, the efforts that people don't see behind it. You have your names to a lot of things of such kind of category. And I welcome you on this show. And thank you so much for giving in your time.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for saying all the lovely things that you are. And yeah, I think I'm excited to have this conversation, and I feel, I also enjoy the story behind the stories, right?
Yeah.
So and even when I meet people who, if I'm interviewing a candidate or something like that, I just feel like, share the work that you've done with me already. So when we meet, we can talk about the story behind the stories, because that's where all the fun really is, right? So
absolutely.
yeah.
I mean, beyond the brief, the idea behind this is also that the initial thought was that if I have to meet you for a coffee,
Yeah.
and if I need to get some insights from what went through certain things in your career graph,
Yeah.
and absorb it and take it to myself, then
Yeah.
I might as well put it on a camera. It's just that someone's rolling here,
Yeah.
and rest is the conversations that
Yeah.
matter. So
Yeah.
let's go
Yeah.
beyond the brief with you
Yes.
today, and let's deep dive into some interesting conversations.
Yes, super.
So everybody in the advertising industry at least knows Hemant Shringy as a professional because you've been, I think it's a very close group of people ultimately.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think what needs to be explored is who you are apart from what you're there in advertising.
Yeah.
So let's deep dive. Let's go back. Let's rewind a couple of years back.
Sure.
If you want to start from the days you were an intern also, for that matter. Yeah, or even before that, what bought you, or rather, like the thing that I knew that I was going to be in advertising, or I knew that filmmaking is something which I wanted. Is that something that was there in you?
No, not at all, actually. And I think me and my family are all so far removed from the world of advertising that I think they still don't fully understand what I do. Because even when I show them the
It's the
ad,
same.
for example, they'll say, "Were you holding the camera?" I say, "No." "Were you directing it?" I was like, "No." And then they're like, "What did you do?" I said, "I thought of the idea." They're like, "Oh." And it's always underwhelming for them what I do. Uh, but having said that, like most Indian moms proud of their son, my mom also is proud of general facts. So, like I think the first time I went to Cannes, her explanation to everyone from the neighborhood was, "वो जहाँ ऐश्वर्या रह जाती है ना."
So in a sense, that's exactly, that's in a way, as much as we are laughing about it, I think that's also what encourages us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That it's not about she didn't know Cannes, right?
Yeah.
It's about the fact that she's so proud about it.
Yeah.
And my mom also, she's like, sometimes she calls me suddenly when she's somebody and says that, "Hey, what is it that you do?"
Correct. Yeah. मुझे बताना किसी को सिखाने के लिए. Yeah. So I mean, I was fully far removed. I think one of the reasons how I stumbled into advertising was the fact that when I finished my 12th in commerce, I was really worried what I'm going to do for the rest of the 3 years because maths was not my friend.
Exactly. Same here.
Yeah. So when I was in the 11th, and your professors keep telling you, oh, maths is a scoring subject, you must take maths, and your math professors are always encouraging you. At the end of the first year of my junior college, my professor came up to me and said, "Tum na SP le lo," which was secretarial practice. But your degree college, you had to have maths.
Yeah.
And that's when I suddenly heard that there's this one course that has come into the Indian educational system that does not require maths in the degree college, and
mass
that was
communication.
Mass communication.
The same.
Yeah.
Communication. It's
Yeah. Bachelor's in mass media was the thing. So I just for that I've gotten myself enrolled into Bachelor's of Mass Media and BMM, and then we just continued. So then it just happened, and then in the third year, before we got into the third year, we had to do an internship.
Yeah.
So I went looking around everywhere. I went to Ogilvy. Ogilvy said, we don't have seats for people to sit on. I said, I'll bring my own seat. Can I come in? But they introduced me to someone in what used to be called Ambience and is now Publicis as an agency. So they sent me there, and I interned there, and that's when I met Mr. Pushpinder Singh, who was my first boss technically. So yeah, that's how I stumbled into advertising, and strangely enough, even within BMM, for example, I had decided in my head that the day my last exam of my degree college gets over, the day after that, I need to start working. Like I need to have a job before that already. And I had given a lot of interviews, and somehow I had found myself in a PR agency. I found myself a job in a PR agency, and I was going to start the next day. And I woke up the morning and I said, man, I don't want to do PR. I want to do advertising. And somehow I just decided to call them up and say that, hey, listen, I made up some reason, and I said that, hey, because of some technical reasons, I can't join. And then I went back to sleep. I woke up at 8 in the morning, called them, went back to sleep, feeling depressed. I wanted to be on the job after my exam gets over, and I didn't. And that's when Pushpi called me in the morning and said that, hey, I've started my own agency now. Okay. Would you like to come and meet me? So I said, yeah. So I went and met him, things worked out, and I started the job the next day onwards. So it was serendipity in that sense that I left the job that I didn't want to do. So that's how I started in advertising. And I think it'll be right for me to say that someone like a Pushpi was really my advertising school, so to speak, in that sense. Honestly, I didn't know much about advertising or much about him as well. And even though I joined as a creative intern, just as interns do everything in the office, I was once sitting and putting together the credentials deck of the agency, which in this case meant Pushpi's credentials, right? And while I was putting those together, I was like, man, this guy has done क्या आप sumo चलाते हैं? This guy has done क्या आप close up करते हैं? This guy has done Amaron ads and all of that. I was like, man, I didn't even know what I was getting into. This guy is fantastic. So I spent about 2 years there. And then what was interesting enough overall was the fact that I, from then on, had almost like a 2-year expiry date at every agency, because I just feel like, I know everything that there is to know of this place, of the brand that I'm working on. And it didn't seem to excite me or challenge me beyond a point. So I did 2 years over there. I did 2 years at Mudra, which is now DDB. I did 2 years at Ogilvy. I did 2 years at Grey. Then I went to BBDO. And that's when I sort of changed my approach as well. And I'll talk about that maybe a little later in the conversation. But yeah, so and then there I spent 12 years, and after 12 years I made the move last year, and I've joined FCB Ulka now. Yeah.
Cool. So, if I have to ask you, do you think there is a proper education for advertising? Because, like you said,
yeah.
your best learning was with Pushpinder.
Yeah.
So these days there are a lot of kids, a lot of people
Yeah.
who are enrolling into MBA in advertising,
Yeah.
BC in advertising.
Yeah.
But do you actually think someone can teach advertising?
I think, and this is my experience, and I felt that a lot of learning really happens on the job. And I have a feeling, I'm sure I can speak for advertising, but I'm sure it happens in every field. Like, I think the most amount of learning happens on the job. I think there might be some technicalities and something, but I mean, to answer your question, I would think that I think on the job is the best learning that can ever happen. Yeah.
Awesome. So, see, most of the campaigns which you have done and that you have won awards and that's most spoken about.
Yeah.
One underlined thing is that it has a strong message that hits people right on the note. Whether it's share the load, or whether it's the eBay campaign that you did. How do you know that when you design a campaign that this is something that has to ring a bell? Ultimately, or these days there are market research and there is which you can do in advance. You can show the storyboards to people and take a research and stuff. But gone are the days when you were there when I think in 2000s when you started designing campaigns. There were no such ways to analyze. It was pure intuition of self-intuition and understanding of what's currently in trend. So what is it that you kept in mind as an inspiration to get these ideas?
I mean, I think more than anything else, I think it's finding meaning in what you do. Because I think we are in advertising, and at the risk of making everyone in my industry lose their job, I can say that maybe we could do without advertising in a way. It's not one of those things that really sort of turn the world around. If advertising went around suddenly, maybe people won't miss it as much. And I think which is why, at least personally, it makes me want to feel that can I add meaning to what I do? And I think, of course, everything is a platform, right? The fact that even as an advertising person, you have a platform to give out messages. And can you make them a little more meaningful? Can you make them a little more important to people? And it doesn't always necessarily need to be sad and serious or inspiring for all times, right? Even if you make someone laugh, even if you make someone cry, even if you make someone angry, you've done your job. Because I think, I keep saying that we're in the business of moving people.
Correct.
We're in the business of moving people to do something. You're telling them to eventually buy a product. How do you move people? You've got to move people with either making them laugh, making them cry, making them angry, making them pissed off, making them think. But you've got to move them. And I think if you've not done that, you've left your job undone, actually. And which is why I think the work that I've happened to do in the past, and now that I'm doing, is to see how I can add more meaning to my work.
So let's just break down one of the campaigns. If you have to say, let's just share the load, because I think that's been like really long time now. And if one campaign with that same tagline has to continue for this long, which means it did hit the right bell. And that's why otherwise I don't remember last any brands who's just been continuing with the same tagline or the communication. What's it that's there in that, if you have to break it down?
I think two things. One is the fact that how do you remain relevant even in that conversation? How are you being contextual in that current conversation? And I think the biggest thing is listening. Are you listening to the response that you're getting? We keep talking about integrated campaigns. We keep talking about full funnel campaigns. We keep talking about the fact that, hey, advertising is not talking at people anymore. It's talking to people and rather with people. So I think listening is a great part of something like this. And, I think yes, somewhere we did, ring the right bell for people in that sense. And I think it rang true. And I think what people started to do was genuinely start to engage with this piece. So, the number of times that our next Share the Load campaign came out from the comment section of the current Share the Load campaign has been amazing.
Nice.
I think I credit the people who get engaged with this. But I think if we were to take a little bit of credit in the mix, would be the fact that we were listening. We weren't just keeping the comment section as the number of comments that come in, but really sort of seeing the rich quality of conversation that was going on there. So yeah.
So in that case, if I have to think of the repeated campaigns that even we have done, what happens is, even if there is a slight similarity to any other ad also which has come out in the market of any other brand,
correct,
still a brand fears to go that route. The entire Share the Load campaign itself is on a one-liner which is basically empowerment of women, and equality with respect to a man and woman. Now in that, if you have to go different, if you have to take different takes every year, is that a tough thing in your back in your jam room? Or is that like what is a thin line that you make sure that this is not repeated next time?
I think the great part with that was the fact that actually it was even sharper than women empowerment or equality, or even narrower, so to speak, because it was very specific to gender equality at home. So how do you stay close to that? And in fact, that's the great test of a campaign like this, right? Because the number of times, the extended partner agencies that you work with think of it as an equality conversation and end up having a conversation that goes beyond the home. And, we and the brand team would always sort of rein everyone back, saying this is not about gender equality as whole. It is about gender equality at home. So I think the special thing about that is that when the brand can own that conversation feels authentic. That conversation feels real.
Absolutely.
I think that's what separates a campaign like Share the Load from a lot of causevatizing campaigns that people keep talking about. So it's not tagging onto a cause for the sake of it. It's something that you have the right to speak about. And to answer your question, how do you do this differently each time? I think what we did and what we've always successfully done is the fact that it was not about being different every time. I think we managed to go deeper every time. So it really is like sort of unpeeling an onion, right? So you go deeper and deeper and deeper into that conversation. And what was great again was the same set of client partners, the same set of agency team people. So you knew that we were living those conversations.
Right.
And while the campaign may come out once a year, the conversation was on throughout.
Yeah,
So
I noticed
one
it,
year.
actually.
It would take the whole year. So it's not. It may feel like it's a project that goes on for a couple of months, but it goes on for the whole year, and the thinking goes that deep in that sense. So
I noticed that. I've seen the father-daughter relationship. Then there's a husband-wife relationship. Then you brought in a bachelor element into it. Then you also brought in the fact that it's okay for a couple to visit a bachelor's house. When they shift in new. Okay. It opens, like how you said, micro detailing in certain real-time emotions which exist in among everyone's life is what makes the whole difference in the conversation. Per se, the messaging is still the same. Share the load.
Correct.
I mean that's absolutely fantastic, because so these ideas or these things, like in jam room, wherever you guys sit and jam. Tell us a little bit about fun aspects of that whole, because at the end of the day, what really vibes when I used to be in the younger days in the advertising world was this whole atmosphere.
Correct.
He creatively being, how do you know that I have a little bit of a creative blood in me? It's when I sit with a group of creative people, right? Otherwise, I can't say I'm creative walking around. So what is it that happens, like in this whole jamming process?
So I think lots of things. Of course, campaigns like Share the Load are not ever made by one person. I think they're made by larger teams of people who are working on it. They're made by people who you listen to, like I was saying, and they're made with a lot of social listening as well. And the fact that Indian women have two jobs, one at the office and one at home, and the fact that men don't do enough of household chores is, uh, and also we were surprised to find out it felt like it's a fact for India, but it turned out it was a global fact as well, and globally people resonated it with as well. And yet, like you're saying, how do you keep sort of reinterpreting that in various different ways? So while that larger context is true, universal, relevant now, but at the same time, what is the new context that you can bring into it each year, right? So one year, for example, while in the social listening process, we came across a statistic which was I think by UN Women or the World Economic Forum, the fact that gender equality is 135 years away, which meant that every woman alive today is not going to experience gender equality for sure, which made them say that women today are radically impatient. So this was so relevant, and which is why that year when we did that conversation, which was the woman asking the husband, "Do you see me as equal?" Was for the first time when it got confrontational in nature.
Yeah.
So far there was someone observing how much the woman is going through and being her voice in that sense. But in this case, the woman got confrontational. That also came from the fact that the context was true.
Yeah.
The fact that women are radically impatient today set the tone for that particular year of the movement in that sense. So that's one thing. The other thing is, the jam room would be different because you don't want to be, in a fishbowl of a conversation, right? Because if there are these 10, 15 people who've been discussing this year after year, how do you increase your influences as well, right? So we would do something which we would call the creative therapy sessions, which is a step removed from a creative brainstorming session where a bunch of creative people or the people who are involved in the project sit together and think about it, and a bit lesser from a research or a qualitative research that you do with complete strangers. Here we would bring people that were open enough to have an honest conversation with this set of people, and at the same time they weren't so involved in the campaign that they would become too tunnel visioned in the conversation at all. So it would comprise of people, from our office admin head, this woman, for example. One of the campaigns, for example, got triggered because in one of these sessions, she spoke about the fact how she's the first one in the house to wake up and the last one in the house to fall asleep.
Yeah.
And which is why we uncovered
and
the
that's
fact...
like all our mothers, right?
That's like all our mothers, and the fact that this inequality of household chores can lead up to something, and an inequality in something so basic as sleep felt ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
So we said that, share the load for equal sleep is what sort of triggered that. So again, that was another anecdote of what a brainstorming session, or a heartstorming session in this case would feel like for share the load.
It kind of gives me goosebumps because, the result is more important, right? Ultimately. And if you look at it, how the entire transition of women empowerment, or rather they speaking for themselves, has been evolving. Your concepts have also been evolving the similar way. Like how you said it, in this last year she confronted the guy. So which means in this last 8 years it was growing in graph.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Sorry, actually I want to add one more thing in the earlier section of how we were building. Because I think that's an interesting point as well. I think the other thing is, of course, the fact that we had so many conversations around share the load. The fact that before getting down to writing something, we would have enough exchanges, like months and months of exchanges and things like that, that eventually, the concept that you're working towards is almost somewhere absorbed in you in person.
Yeah.
Which is why eventually, when I would sit and write it, it would take me not more than 15 minutes to write it. So, like say, for example, when we did Dad Share the Load, we had been speaking about this thought for a very long time. We spoke about the fact that it's actually the conditioning that passes on from generation to generation,
Absolutely.
right? We didn't see our dads do it, so we don't do it. Our kids are going to see that, and the cycle's going to carry on. So we felt that, we've got to do something around conditioning, and we were having a lot of conversation around it. In fact, there was a time where there was a lovely script that was written, approved, the PPM was done, and we were about to shoot it. Is when we felt that, I don't know, there was an itch that felt like maybe there's something we can still sort of pursue further. And we had the conversation that, if you want to make something, you've got to break something.
Yeah.
So we said, let's break patriarchy. We had never seen a father apologizing to his daughter.
Yeah.
And we felt that if we are taking on conditioning, if we are taking on patriarchy, can we do something which has never been done before? And I think that's something that sort of really, tugged at people's heartstrings in that sense. And again, because we had spoken about it so much, eventually we said, how does the father apologize to the daughter? Maybe he'll find it too awkward to say it. So we said, maybe he writes a letter. And we decided what we'll start with is that before getting into the script and all of that, let's write what an apology letter will look like. And I think I was all of 26, not even married, nowhere close to being a father. And we decided that maybe I'll do the first draft and we'll get, a certain prolific writer who's also a father, and my itch to always want to work with Gulzar Saab, that, maybe at one point, once we have the first draft, we'll go to Gulzar Saab and we'll do this. And I wrote it down in 15 minutes on a beanbag sitting in the office library. And we did not change a word from what we wrote that point in time to when it finally became. Yeah.
So that entire narrative, the whole narrative is what you wrote.
Yeah. So the whole apology letter was, and it was just that. And I think as soon as I wrote it, I went up to Josie, and Josie was sitting with his then EA, and I read it out, and she was in tears while we were saying it. And imagine this is not the script.
Yeah.
This is just the letter. So we called the client up 2 days before the shoot, after the PPM is done, and said, hey, we've written something. And all we read out to him was the letter.
Nice.
And he said, go shoot it.
Lovely.
And imagine again this partnership as well, right? I think the fact that someone came up to you 2 days before, after a whole shoot was planned.
Yeah.
That you can go ahead and shoot something entirely different that you've not even heard the script for. You just heard a letter.
Correct.
So we did that. And then I went and I spoke, and Shimit was the director. And Shimit is just so fantastic. And again, you can tell when things are done with the right intentions, and when everyone is in it together, no one minds some of these surprises. Imagine going up to a director the night before or 2 nights before the shoot and saying, hey, the script has changed. He's going to be in absolute panic, right? But in this case, he wasn't. So we sat down and we said, okay, now let's visualize this film. Let's see how we can make this happen. And interestingly enough, the location was booked,
Yeah.
So the Dad Share the Load film, if you see, the way it was written originally was that the father is visiting the daughter's home. And he's standing by the balcony where he has the vantage point of the entire house, and he's looking at his daughter move around. But the location that we had booked did not have a balcony. And again, this is such a great example that constraints can actually lead to something beautiful. And Shimit came up with this fantastic idea, which added a nuance, which I don't know whether people picked up on, but it makes a big difference. So he said, let's put the father in the middle of the house.
Yeah.
So that when she's walking around, he's having to crane his neck and see where she's going, what she's doing, the fact that she's so active and she's so all over the house. So that constraint actually became a creative element that sort of furthered the thought that we were doing.
Nice.
And again, in the night, we picked, the cast, because the earlier film was different. The cast happened, everything happened, but everyone was so in sync. And, this was such a great partnership of the client and the agency and the director and the production house in that sense, that, it worked out so beautifully. But
amazing.
But I think the fact that when you really soak in the entire conversation, to the extent that the creativity just flows from there, is the best place to be
Absolutely.
in. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So now that we are in Share the Load also, and now that we're talking about women empowerment also, there's also one of the campaigns which I've kept a tap on is Barabri Bhasha.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now that's something which was more than emotional. It was a realization.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And while I was reading it,
Yeah.
I was also like, yeah, man. I mean, this it's so right.
Yeah.
I mean, so before before me spilling the bean, why don't you start off with what is that initial thought of it quickly, and then let's just go to what is that change that brought about this whole thing. I mean, what is the impact rather?
Yeah.
Because I think everyone knows the campaign. If you just talk about it, what's more important is how it all started and what was the impact left.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I think a couple of years ago, when Pratibha Patil had become the president, there was this whole furor in a way where she was called Rashtrapatni. Now, what the hell is Rashtrapatni, right? Rashtrapati is head of the nation.
Yeah.
Rashtrapatni is wife of the nation. The fact that it's a bit strange. I think our culture is really evolving. I think India is really evolving, and I think the fact that when maybe the language was written, that time a lot of roles were gender driven. Now those roles are not gender driven anymore.
Yeah.
It's not, there are some jobs that only men do and some jobs only women do. In fact, women are making such strides in India today. I think in every possible field.
Yeah.
So it feels like, a lot of times culture goes forward and the language has to keep up. And I think this is an idea like that. So I think someone, from the team had this idea for the last couple of years. And they were sitting with this idea and just finding the right partners for it in a way. And we felt that Navbharat Times is such a perfect partner for an idea like this, because this is a conversation about Hindi.
Yeah.
And Navbharat Times is the leading Hindi daily as well. As the custodian of the language and the culture, it just made the right fit for them to work on something like this and partner with us on this one. And they've been absolutely fantastic in making this happen. Because I think, again, ideas like these, they may start from one person, but I think because they are so relevant, because they are so resonant with everyone starts to own this conversation.
Yeah.
So it was a great starting point that someone from the team had, and we started to build that further. And just to say that, hey, you know what? We're not just making space for women. We're not just accommodating women in the narrative. We're celebrating women.
Yeah.
And I think, again, this was a conversation that we had in a lot of depth, not just amongst ourselves and with the team at Navbharat Times and the editors and the editorial team, but also language experts, also linguists. Because you don't want to do it as mere lip service, right? You want to see how does something like this become a reality? How does this become accepted? How do these new words that you're creating become accepted in the vocabulary? So I think there were two things. One was the fact that the whole debate was about, should these be gender neutral words or should they be female gendered words? And I think there were two really strong arguments that tilted the weight towards being female gendered words. One is the fact that, hey, you're not merely recognizing or saying that, hey, let's accommodate women in this, but the fact that you wanted to celebrate them. And the other was the fact that even linguistically, right, you're not going to abandon words that have been going on for centuries.
Correct.
You may accept new words, but you may not replace words. Vaigyanik, which is scientist in Hindi, is a male gendered word. So we could make a Vaigyanik, and our language experts added an A ki matra towards the end of it and make Vaigyanik, Vaigyanika. And now we have a male gendered word and a female gendered word for a scientist in Hindi. Say, for example, we said, let's make a word which is gender neutral. And if we were to come up with a word like Vaigyaniku, for example, it's hard to imagine that people will let go of the word Vaigyanik.
Correct.
they will continue to use that, and it will continue to mean a male gendered word.
Correct.
Which and you know the fact that even when we speak, right, even when we write letters, we say dear sir / madam.
Yeah.
So the encouragement is really to the fact that, hey, when we're having this conversation, let's start to say, Bharat ke Vaigyanik or Vaigyanika versus just saying
Got it.
one in that sense. And it's been fantastic. I think what was amazing was the fact that when you have ideas that are honest and authentic, they will get the great response. And along with just all the positive congratulatory messages that we got for starting this initiative, people also started to contribute to it. And it was again, the fact that, like you're saying, these are all things which realizations in a way, and they're all mind opening in that sense. Someone wrote to us saying that even the word Vijeta,
Yeah.
which is winner, is a male gendered word and does not have a female gendered word, which essentially means that winning in India is only for men. And they contributed a word. They said maybe the female gendered word for Vijeta should be Vijayatri. And again, we put it to test along with our language experts. And what the Navbharat Times team also did was, we were speaking and we're saying that let's not make it an advertising campaign. Let's make it an editorial campaign, because we want this to be a part of culture. So what they did was every Saturday, they would put out a word that does not have a female gendered words, and the language experts would have worked out options of those words, and then say that, hey, these out of these words, what are the words which is the one word that the people most resonate with? And there was a poll and there was a voting, and these are essentially words that are co-created with the editorial team, language experts, and the nation at large, right? And again, fantastically, what Navbharat Times has started doing is that they started using those words within their editorials as well. Once you know what the word is, they've started using it.
Yeah.
Even on section headers, right? The fact that if you open a sports page, it shows you the word for batsman. The fact that ballebaz is again a male gendered word. And, again, we created a female gendered word called ballebazni. In the science and tech section, we said Vaigyanik, Vaigyanika. In the economic section, we said, Udyogpati and Udyogini in that sense. So I think each section then started to sort of do that. And what was interesting was the fact that we, launched the first creative of this on Women's Day. And soon enough was the WPL finals. And on WPL finals, a lot of commentators started to use the word ballebazini. So
nice.
Really seeped into culture.
Messages floated.
Yeah. A lot of women sort of changed their LinkedIn bios. Someone like a Jasleen Royal said, hey, Kalakar is a male gendered word.
Yeah.
If artist in Hindi is a male gendered word, then who am I? What am I?
Correct.
And she demanded, in a way, what's the rightful word for her. And again, along with the country, we co-create a word called Kalakara, which would best define a woman. So, yeah.
Lovely. I mean, what a journey. I mean,
yeah.
It's changed a lot of outlook, perspective, and as well as, adding new words into a conversation, which we on a day-to-day basis have. It's a way which kind of, it's a metric. These are the metrics that a campaign is a successful thing. More than your eyeballs and the readership, listenership, etc. These are the true metrics in a way. So now, Hemant, so if I have to say, after having so many years of experience, after seeing so many briefs day-to-day basis, where off late at least the trend has been that say 60% is just a brief, and it never goes ahead of more than that. Still you need to put equal amount of efforts in it. Around 20% is where things go ahead, and around another 20% is what get executed. In that, 5% is what basically actually rings the bell. After approaching so many briefs, what is this unlearning process? Because there might be another brand in the same zone which comes up with the same problem. There might be some brands who has a similar products and asking you to come up with a communication for it. Ultimately, if a brand's things go wrong, as a CCO, you will have to also give a reason of why and why not also. Both. So what is that process of unlearning for you? And thinking basic.
I think it's great that you say that, right? Because I keep saying that I believe in the joy of not knowing.
Yeah.
I think that sort of started when I was telling you, that whole conversation about me having a 2-year expiry date in every job. I was like, I've got to break this. And how do I do this? Which is why I thought that, as actually at a mid-level creative person, once you've learned the tips and tricks of the trade, in that sense, you start to feel very confident, overconfident, or even cocky about what you've been doing so far. So as a cocky mid-level creative person, I would pride the fact that every time I'm hearing a brief, I can already imagine the creative piece in my head. And later I found out maybe that's the problem. The fact that if while I'm listening to the brief, I've already thought of the idea, then where is the joy of discovery? Where is the fun in creating something? So I said, let me try and change this approach, which is where I discovered what I like to say, the joy of not knowing, which meant that when I'm hearing a brief, I'm completely blank. I'm just listening and absorbing and seeing what every little word is being said in the brief, and then pretend that I know nothing about advertising and know nothing about any of this. While it also gives me crippling anxiety to the level that imagine walking in after having more than 20 years of experience, walking into every campaign thinking, will I be able to crack this or will I not be able to crack this? But more often than not, and touch wood, almost always, it feels like it leads me to places that I didn't expect.
Absolutely.
And I think it's important, right? I think if you can manage to work in a way that there are times when you can manage to surprise yourself, is when you're really keeping yourself alive, right? Because I don't think anyone is more predictable to me than I am. So how do I make myself unpredictable to myself? So I think the joy of not knowing sort of helps with that, and I think I constantly operate from that point of view. Yeah.
Awesome. So what is it that is kind of what is the change that you're looking at every time when you're actually approaching it, or let's say approaching, let's leave advertising itself.
Yeah.
What is it that you look for a change that motivates you?
I think a lots of things, but I think to start with right now, the fact that I have a 3.5, almost 4-year-old daughter is
I can ring with you. I can ring it very well because I have a 4 and a 2-year-old daughter.
Wow.
So yeah.
And I think it's amazing, right? Because I think as much as I hate the fact that I don't get as much time with my daughter as I would love to, but even the little moments that I spend with her are just so fantastic, because I think, again, in the same vein, right? You've lived so many years of your life. All the firsts that could have happened in your life are over.
Correct.
But now to observe so many firsts of someone else and your own child, it just sort of gives you almost a new lease of life in that sense, a new sense of excitement, a new sense of surprise. And I mean, little things, right? I think
sometimes it's not even first also.
Yeah,
Sometimes
yeah.
it is second. You know why?
Yeah.
Because you've done this.
Correct.
But when you did this, you didn't know it.
You didn't know it.
But
Yeah.
now when the history is repeating again.
Correct.
That's when they, and sometimes your mom or your dad also
Yeah.
points it out, saying that you were nothing less.
Yeah.
Or
Absolutely.
you were worst.
Yeah.
So it's a second in a way.
Yeah. So it's amazing, because I think on an everyday basis, my daughter does something that sort of surprises us, that excites us, that makes us feel wow. She's turning into her own person right now, and it's so fantastic. And every little observation, there's just so much sense of discovery. There's so much curiosity in a way, and just watching her live her life, is inspiring to me so much. And tiny things, right? The fact that when she was about 6 months old, she was playing with a balloon, and the balloon burst, and thankfully it didn't make too much noise, so she wasn't startled. But the look on her face, that the balloon was here and now it's disappeared. How does that work?
Damn cute.
So I think that sense of wonder, that sense of sort of discovery is so fantastic. And I think once I was sitting and working on something, and I was working from home, and we were working for a suiting brand that had a suit which is such breathable and stretchable material that you can move comfortably even when you're in your suit. And I was thinking of that, and I saw my child. I think she was about 2.5 year old back then, and she was moving from one end of the room to the other end of the room, And she's not walked in a straight line like all of us do. She's walked, she's crawled, she's jumped, she's danced, she's meandered a little bit, she's played a little bit, and she's reached the other place. And it made me think of the fact that, when did we start moving like a child? When did we stop moving like a child? And that felt like an interesting observation, right? When did we? Why did we? But the fact that, of course, in this case, this piece of clothing allows you to move just like you would when you were a child, which doesn't feel so structured and boxed and sort of caged in that sense. So I think in some way it's turned me into a better creative person.
So I think
as well.
when if I have to look, like, thinking out of box is when you actually look at these nuances. Yeah. Because this is a process of learning and unlearning, and then again learning it back.
Yeah.
So these things are a beautiful learning that you can get. And true, I mean, daughters are always an inspiration. I buy that totally.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. So let's move to work-life balance. Because as much as I feel that I my wife and my kids hate me for the fact that I can never give a date for travel. Because it's so chaotic.
Yeah.
I can't plan a 2 months till later we are going for a vacation. Unless it's an international, it's a different thing. But or for the matter, like, I can't say that, okay, fine, this marriage I'll be there.
Yeah.
It's deadline. What is my first priority, and then it's the other things which is there. I'm sure you would have faced it. As you have also a lot of people down the ladder for you. But still. More up you're in the ladder, more the responsibility. More the decision making. So the crazy the work hours that you have. Then, like you said, you feel guilty for the fact that you don't spend time with your daughter. So how is that you think we can bring in a structure? Because though agencies like you guys have so much of corporate HR, human resource based things aligned for each employee. Still, everyone should think that way. The brand also should think that way. The deadlines also should be kept that way to everything.
Correct.
Otherwise, what is the use of saying that after 5, after 6 is like a overtime? Okay, overtime, fine, no problem. We're still sitting in the office.
Correct.
How is that work-life balance you think should be important?
That is a super loaded question and with many points of views and many possible solutions from different people as well, right? I think what's tricky in our business is it's also something that we really love doing. So we don't know when the work takes over the life and when the life takes over the work in a way.
Absolutely.
So there's a little bit of our doing as well, I think to start with, it's of course that. I think at the same time, it's also a kind of job where how much exposure you have to your own life is what you can bring into work. To me, I think it's absolutely important that work-life balance really exists, because how are you going to contribute towards something if you're not sort of expanding your exposure yourself? So I think.
So I kind of, how I do, off late at least. I make sure that, it doesn't matter morning or night, but spend that hours with my kids, with my wife. Either leave late, or if I'm coming late, then in the morning just balance that out. So ultimately, it's just that you need to get your child. I tell my daughter, like, today is a meeting, so now off late it's the other way around. So if I say I'm late, she'll ask me, you have a meeting.
Correct.
So it's like it's so they're molded in that fact. But that can't be taken for granted also.
Absolutely.
Saying that, I give all my life to my work. And you can I'm available for you at all given point of time. That's very necessary, like you said, where you draw that line and where you do that. That's pretty much the thing.
I think as much as creative people may not like it, I think discipline is the answer to work-life balance.
Absolutely.
I've also sort of learned it the hard way. But I'm like, there's, once you, and actually learned it, meaning I'm still learning, the fact that once you have some sort of a structure to how you plan your life, I think it'll be the best possible, because you've got to make sure that, I think in this whole scenario, I think what works the best is when you can decide to be present in the moment with whatever you're doing. So when you're at work, when you're fully present there, when you're fully applying yourself there, things happen faster, things happen better. And then again, when you're in life, how do you make sure that you're fully present there as well? Because you want to take as much of life as possible so that you can contribute it back to work.
But off late, I think it's also the self awareness of where am I needed physically and where can I be remotely.
Yeah.
Off late.
Correct.
You know, so that kind of makes your time for everyone.
Yeah.
Cool, amazing. So now let's get to a hot topic, which is AI. Yeah, because I love talking about it because we are also shifting our services and I myself am learning new things. I'm enrolling myself for certain courses and things like that to understand what's more happening in the AI trend. So now if I have to talk about this whole era, it's for me where I look at it is like, when I started there was TVC. There's still TVC. But then it's not. When I started my company, I started off by making TVC, and DVC was a cut down.
Correct.
Then DVC became, and then TVC was not there because it became an expensive affair. Versus DVC, and we made digital videos as a mainstream. Now, usme aa gaya cut downs, which is reels, which is the 10 seconders, 15 seconders. Now, in an AI world, all this is very easy. I don't even need to go shoot also. Okay. Gone are the days where to get a patch, like for example, to patch shoot something, I have to call for the camera and call for the things in a smaller studio. Now, if it's not the hero's shot, I can even make it on AI and just insert it. So now, what is it that you're seeing, that you're foreseeing? That do you see making yourself deliverables for AI?
Absolutely. And I'm saying, think about it, right? We're eventually in the business of ideas. Now, mediums have been changing and evolving ever since. Like you said, there was a time where a DVC came in. There was a time when radio would have come in as a medium, or there would have been a time where TV would have come as a medium. So we've been evolving with that. So I don't see why we make such a big deal of AI in that sense. Of course, it's a big deal because it's so disruptive in nature. It is so innovative in nature in that sense. So I think that's fantastic. But I think we've been in the business of ideas anyways. And, throw in another medium at it, throw in another way of execution in it. And I think that's how you've been working on. And think about it, right? Because I was reading, I happened to come across, I'm shifting right now. So I come across a lot of treasure trove of old information. So I came across this magazine where they were speaking to me and they asked me about the fact that, what do you think about social media in advertising right now? And what about the creative people who are social media recluses right now? And I remember answering to that saying that I don't think when we started advertising, people could have said, I am a newspaper recluse, or I'm a radio recluse, or I'm a television recluse. The fact that mediums will keep coming and you'll keep evolving and you'll keep sort of picking up with them. And I think it's important too, because I think if the world is moving forward, so should you. Why should you hold yourself back? As simple, AI today, my mom has stopped looking for answers to questions online for online searches, right? She's now asking the same questions to AI. When we are making even our social posts, and when, the way people are using all of these AI tools in their regular life, why would we not do it, when we're creating things as well? So,
but at the end of the day, what is it that you think that can be replaced by AI?
I mean, of course, the flair of human creativity, the flair of what human beings can add to something,
that is there,
never
but
going to be taken away.
These days, I also, if I need something, or if I need to trigger a start point, I also jam with AI.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Maybe the fact that the thought could have started from AI, like an inspiration could have come from there. To then, evolve, making it better would be the human intervention which you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel, of course, over time, like we're saying, many different mediums have entered in, and how have we used it? I think we've got to somehow keep pace with the fact that we are using AI and AI is not using us. I think till then we should be good. But honestly, I think it's important that we keep up, and I think what will separate a good AI piece of work versus an average AI piece of work is human intervention. So
if I if I have to take up some good fun moments of advertising where you go for a pitch and ultimately we are in the business of selling ideas. An idea does not exist in physical form.
Correct.
Yeah. So if you have to sell something which does not exist, and you need to ask them to invest in that. Yeah. There are certain things which you prepare and go in agency. Like I remember Venki telling me while I was talking to him on the show, saying that there was a pitch where he was asked to, he and his people are asked to, बस हंस देना जब CEO आएगा बस हंस देना ताकि idea बेच जाएगा. But the fact is, we believe in it. We believe in our idea. We know that it will work. Always there is that question of what if. It does not resonate with that other person. So in this level, as of now, where you're sitting as of now, what is it that you guys do to do this? To overcome this.
I think interestingly enough, we're also in a very different time now, where I think people's attention spans are also a problem. So even when you're sitting in a room, even when you're presenting stuff, for example, the attention span is really low. So I think what I often speak about is the fact that tell your idea before you sell your idea. So I think, which is interesting, because I think a lot of times creatively we start to feel that, no, let me wait for the big reveal for my idea. But I think let that happen. Do it with the flair, do it with the amazingness. But I think once you speak about your idea, it's very easy to sell it from there on. So I think the fact that, so when you're presenting a creative piece, someone is not struggling to see, am I following what he's saying? Is this the right creative things? Because you've told everything to the person already. Once you've told it enough, I think, selling it shouldn't become a problem.
Awesome. Cool. So that brings the end to our wonderful chat. And thank you for sharing a lot of inspirational and insightful conversation, because like I said, this is something which I do to learn from you guys. And I'm sure I've seen a lot of other side of learning, which is my own learning. But this learning is a pure experience learning that you guys come and you talk to people and me. So thank you for giving that time and taking out that time, coming and sitting here, sharing that with us. Is there any last thoughts that you would want to put to the people, upcoming inspirational people who wants to join the agency side or the advertising side? Is there any last thoughts that you would want to leave?
I just want to tell everyone that let's bring back the fun in advertising, because I think that's what it's all about. So I think I think it was the constant want to have fun that has always made us do amazing things. I think in a lot of heavy duty, crazy conversations, I think once the fun goes out of it, what's the point of it anyways? So I'd say, let's see how we can have as much fun as possible while we are creating what we're creating.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Hemant.
Thank you so much.
Lovely to have you here.
Yes. Thank you for having me. It's a lovely format. Look
forward.
Thank
you so much.
Yes.